the recommendations. This evening we'll be looking at the live client presentation, and then next week we'll be moving forward and talking about the written comprehensive plan. Two activities that you'll be engaged in as we move into the second part of the week, second part of the course. But tonight I'm absolutely delighted to welcome our guest, Elizabeth Jetholm. She is a CIF expert faculty, adjunct faculty, known nationwide, presenter and author. And Elizabeth, I'm sure I can just keep going on. Elizabeth and I are the two people who have, up to now, taught the capstone course. And every once in a while, the two of us get to team up, and that is always so fun for me. And Elizabeth, welcome this evening, and thank you for being here.
It's
What I'm
my
going to
pleasure.
do is stop my webcam because I would like you to focus on the conversation that I'm now going to have with Karen Carpenter. Elizabeth is playing the role of Karen Carpenter, and I am Mike Planner. And so with that, we'll start the presentation. Well, welcome, Karen. It's good to see you today. You know, I have to tell you, I'm quite disappointed to see that your husband wasn't able to be here.
Oh, I know, but he's really sick and he's just now starting to get better. He was really upset about missing the meeting because he's been really anxious to get some answers for our financial problems.
I see. Well, we have a lot to cover today because, to be quite frank, your current plan is sort of a mess. So let's just jump right into the presentation.
Well, before you get started, Mike, there are a couple of things that came to mind since our last meeting, and I wanted to talk to you about them.
Well, if you don't, let's hold off on those items until another time because I've been working really hard on developing solutions to your problems, and I'm ready to present them today at this meeting. We'll deal with those other issues in a later meeting if they still even apply.
Well, I guess that's okay.
I've listed client goals on this slide. As shown, you've asked me to help you plan for your kids' education, get your budget in order, devise a retirement strategy, and review your insurance coverage. Not all of your goals are achievable based on your current situation, but I've been able to develop some planning strategies that will move you in the right direction. So let's just jump right into the funding of your child's education.
Oh, good. My husband and I are very committed to providing Jake a quality education. He's really a focused student, and I think he'll make it into a major private university.
Yeah, unfortunately, you didn't do much to make that happen up to now. The good news is that I've identified a solution. Send your child, you said his name's Jake, right?
Right.
To a local public college and fund 50% of the cost. He can work in a university work-study program. It builds character. That's what my parents did for me, and I turned out fine.
But we really wanted to give him an opportunity to have a quality education. That's something Joe and I never had. It's really important to us.
Well, with only 5 years to go, there isn't time enough to build up a large enough account. Unless you and your husband want to take on a second job or expect an inheritance real soon. As you see, the current cost of education in a public university is $18,930 in today's dollars. Inflating that figure by 6.6% annual growth rate assumption, you're looking at $24,445 the first year for tuition, room, and board. Inflating each of the subsequent years by 6.6% results in a total cost for tuition, room, and board of about $26,059 the second year, $27,778 the third year, and $29,611 the fourth year. That totals up to $107,894. 4 years just doesn't give you enough time for the compounding to kick in. We'll go with the 50% at a local college.
Well, I'm going to need to talk about this with my husband. This is quite upsetting.
Oh, well, enough on that discussion. Let's move on to the family budget, or I guess we can say the lack of one. The first item that jumps out is that your family is earning over $130,000 per year. you aren't saving for retirement or educational needs, and you're still running out of money. Fortunately, I have some planning recommendations that will solve your problem. Let's take a look. As you can see here, I'm recommending refinancing of the home mortgage. Second of all, we'll be able to roll up that auto loan into the refinancing. That's going to improve some of the coverages. We'll look at decreasing some of the auto insurance, cutting down on the credit card costs, and then reducing that home equity loan, because again, we're doing that refinancing. Now, there's no change to the electric bills, the water bills, some of the other utilities, laundry or clothing. We'll cut back on the miscellaneous health expenses, and we're going to be adding some insurance, as I'll mention later. Some of the work we're going to be doing will be cutting back on the federal withholding, the state withholding. And as you can see, to make this work, we're going to cut back on the entertainment by $2,000 and your vacation expense by $5,700. How's that look to you?
Well, I know the vacation expenditure looks high, but we have a family tradition that we meet somewhere once a year. It's so wonderful seeing our parents and our siblings, and my son gets to know his cousins. For instance, last year we went to Disney World. I mean, we had such a great time.
Yeah, I can see what you're saying, but at least you have some good memories from the prior years. Listen, if you want to get serious about helping your son with the college costs and have some sort of lifestyle, when you and your husband are old and frail, you have to forego some of these unnecessary expenses, like the annual expensive vacation. Have you ever thought about using Skype for meeting with your family? It doesn't cost anything. Your son can look at his cousins all day on the computer monitor.
Well, Mike, that's not exactly the same thing.
Well, it's not all that bad. But let's move on now. Once you cut back on vacation expenses and the unnecessary expenses and refinance the home, we can get your retirement savings going and improve your insurance coverages. I recommend that both of you contribute $5,000 to the IRAs. Purchase a $1.5 million 20-year convertible term policy for your husband, a $1 million 20-year term policy for you, and add disability policies for Joe. Any additional surpluses will be used to add to the retirement or the education accounts. Any questions on this?
Can we afford to buy those life insurance policies? Do we really need that much?
Yes, like I told you, after you cut back on the unnecessary expenditures, you can purchase the recommended insurance. And yes, you need that much. As a financial planning professional, I have the sophisticated software to calculate your insurance needs. And that's the amount required.
Well, can you explain what you mean by that 70% income replacement benefit?
Unfortunately, we're running out of time. You can read about that in my written plan, which you'll take home with you today. Let's move forward to summarize the actions that you will be responsible for. Here's the action list that I put together. 1. Open a 529 saving plan with a custodian. Review the investment options and contribute to the account by the end of the month. Meet with a mortgage broker to refinance the home mortgage, the home equity line of credit, and the current outstanding loan balance. Cut back on the vacation and entertainment spending. The maximum allowance for the year is $9,900. Both of you need to contribute to a traditional IRA account by April 15th of next year. Meet with your insurance agent in the near future and purchase a 20-year term convertible life insurance policy of $1.5 million and a $1 million policy for you with an annual premium of around $370. Meet with your insurance agent and purchase an individual disability insurance policy for your husband that will replace 70% of pre-disability insurance or pre-disability income. And make a follow-up financial planning appointment at least within the year. Are you ready to move forward in implementing this plan?
It just seems like quite a lot.
Yes, many clients fail to follow through on all my recommendations, and then they wonder why they don't reach their goals. That's why you and your husband should consider hiring me to do that work for you. Should we set up an appointment for the two of you to come back to sign the contract? Or would you like to take it home with you and mail it back to me?
I really think I'll just have to get back to you about that.
Oh, okay. Well, best of luck to you. Goodbye, Karen. Neo Planet.
Okay, so Jack, hi, it's great to see you today. I'm so sorry Samantha's under the weather.
Hi, Mia, and it's good to see you. I know Samantha was so disappointed she couldn't be here. She's just feeling bad. First of all, feeling bad from being sick and feeling bad she couldn't be here. But thank you for your comments.
Well, sure, Jack. And what I'd like to suggest, I'm going to go through what we already had planned for today, but I want to just make the offer that if, when she's feeling better, if Samantha would like to come in by herself, so that you don't sort of have to play that uncomfortable role of being the middleman and trying to, communicate all of this to her. I'm more than happy to do that, and I'll follow up with an email to the both of you, and I'm happy to set that up. But you're here today, and I want to make good use of your time. We'd scheduled about um, 30 minutes for our meeting, fairly brief today. Is that still going to work for you?
Yes, that will work today.
Okay, great. And I have an agenda here, but before we even look at it, I just want to check in with you, Jack. Is there anything uh, in addition to what you see here that you want to make sure you get out of today's meeting?
You've listed everything here, but one area that I know that Sam and I are both, really focused on hearing about is that educational funding, and also maybe if we can get our financial accounts in order. So when you say cash and debt management, I guess are the two areas that the two of us were really excited about hearing today.
Well, that's great. I know that education for Jake is a priority, and you're right to sort of tie those two because, of course, the inflow and outflow of money is sort of the core aspect to all of these goals. So let's dive in, and if you have questions at any point, you stop me, all right? And I'll make sure to pause now and then and see if. So these are the things that we'll
Sure,
cover
that.
today. Oh, go ahead.
Oops. Okay.
Okay. So let's talk a little bit about what it takes to move towards your goals, and I really we're so on the same page right now, talking about improving your cash flow management, saving for Jake's education, as you just mentioned. But of course, we need to make sure that we are tending the plan for your retirement years for you and Samantha, because there's really only one way to pay for that. It's there aren't loans available as there are for education. So this is something I think is important to consider. And then, of course, it's important to build a good foundation within this financial plan, and that means making sure that there's nothing uh, there. We address the kinds of risks and uncertainties that could, have a negative impact on all the great work and all the planning that you do. So we want to talk about how can we manage that catastrophic risk that we hope never happens, but we want to plan. Let's begin by talking about the cash and debt management. Um, we have looked over your cash flow and, of course, gotten very familiar with your income. And I didn't want to put a ton of numbers here. We can look at the details if you like. But let's just cut to the chase. There is currently a shortfall in your cash flow of $3,600 a year. Frankly, that's not bad. It's difficult to live within one's means these days, so I actually consider that fairly remarkable. But with our planning suggestions, we can help you turn that into an annual surplus of $26,000. The way we're going to be able to do that is, first of all, to have you refinance your mortgage. You have such an opportunity. You have equity in your home. Interest rates are very low. You have good credit score. You've been at the same job for a long time. I will be happy to introduce you to someone I have worked with for years to help you apply for a refinancing, and that's going to make the biggest difference. The three of us had talked before, Jack, about possibly making some adjustments to some of your discretionary spending, and understand that having an annual vacation where you get to meet with your extended family is really important to you. And, it's not enough to go to work, come home, eat, and go to bed. We all need to thrive and we need to have some fun. So I'm leaving that to you and Samantha to really look at what you feel like you can do in these areas and any other areas of expenses without threatening how you feel about your quality of life. But I think overall we can get you to this surplus of $26,000. How does that feel to you? How does that sound?
Wow, that's amazing, Mia. You know, Sam and I have been working hard on trying to balance our personal budgets. And this year was, we had a little bit of a shortcoming. So to see this surplus of 26,000, and wow, this is amazing because we've just been so stressed about figuring out how we were going to finance education and start saving towards retirement. How, wow, that's the loan financing, huh?
Exactly. Well, and it's a combination of the refinancing and making some proactive choices about some of your discretionary spending. And between the two of those, this is something that you can accomplish. And I will be more than happy to work with the two of you on uh, creating a system that allows you to really track your spending and make sure that this is feasible and doesn't create any discomfort on your. So let's move on. So here is just a simple chart that might give you a better understanding of really what I'm talking about here in a little bit more detail and what we can do with that newly found surplus in your cash flow. What you'll see is that we will be able to reduce your home mortgage by a couple of $1,000s. Um, when we refinance, we'll be withdrawing some of your equity and paying off your auto loan so that that reduces some of your current spending. We'll pay off your home equity loan. We will be increasing some insurance. That's to address some of those catastrophic risks that we mentioned. We'll reduce your federal withholding as well because you've actually been getting a bit of a refund each year. And I've given you an example of reductions in your entertainment and vacation budget. I want you and Samantha to really take a look at this and make sure you feel comfortable. There might be some other areas of spending that you would prefer to cut, but this is how we arrive at that $26,000 surplus. And what's most important about this slide is these two lines in purple, Jack. What we're able to do is now begin to significantly fund both your financial freedom and the retirement savings, and to begin to aggressively fund future college education for Jake. We don't have a lot of time since he goes to school in about 4 years, so this is really critical to meet your and Samantha's goals. Does this make sense to you?
It does. You said that Sam and I can talk about the entertainment and vacation cutbacks.
Absolutely. I want to make sure that this is comfortable for you all. It's something we talked about before. But as I said, what I'd like you to try to do is to simply maybe try to find this is, I think, about, oh, we're looking at about $7,000, $8,000 reducing your spending. And I'm illustrating it here in the areas of entertainment and vacation. But you and Samantha may decide you would rather try to find that money in a different category, maybe going out to eat less, reducing clothing budget, something like that. So this is just for illustration purposes, but this is something that the two of you have to feel comfortable with and feel good about in order to implement. Does that make
Okay.
sense?
Yeah, it does. And then if if my wife has questions, she can call you. You said that at the beginning. Great.
Absolutely. I'm happy to sit down with her face to face or over the phone. The key here, and it's difficult, I think, unless your name is Bill Gates or Warren Buffett. I think most of us find ourselves having to make some choices in how we use our money, how we spend our income. And one of the primary aims of financial planning is to address the tension that almost all of us feel between what we want to spend money on and need to spend money on today and what we want and need to spend money on tomorrow. There's a tension, right? And you feel it. You want to spend money on entertainment, vacations, going out to eat, all of those things that are fun. It costs a lot of money to own a home. And at the same time, you have these very deeply cherished future goals, such as the ability to retire and enjoy life on that side of the equation, and also the ability for Jake to have choices and to have a quality education. So this is about helping you make those choices and see the impact of making those choices. It's pretty powerful what you would be able to contribute to these goals. Any other questions about the cash flow?
No, I don't have a question. Yes, no. It's just exciting to see the possibility of that income coming from the refinancing, and get some of that debt off our
Oh, I
shoulders.
know. You already feel the weight lifting, don't you? And I'm glad to hear you're
Yeah.
excited about it. So let's, if that's okay, let's move forward and see what else we have in store. Oops. So I wanted to give you a sense of different different approaches to funding Jake's education. Um, you know, education has gotten so expensive, and the rate of inflation from one year to the next on the cost of college is much higher than overall inflation that we assume, for things, for other cost of living. Cost of education can often goes up 6% a year or more. What I'm showing you here is just a very general comparison of the differences in the cost of public 2-year education, a public 4-year education, and the cost of providing a private 4-year education over this period of time. So you can see how dramatically a private education has increased in costs between 1978. I don't actually have handy the numbers for the last couple of years. And you can see the great difference, the gap between the cost of a private college and a public education. Pretty significant, isn't it?
It sure is. This is a really interesting slide. I know that Samantha and I want to send Jake to the best school that we can, and if that meant a private school in which they really had a wonderful program and something he's interested to, we want to try to do that. I don't know if we have enough money to do that. Does your firm help clients look for maybe scholarships?
We can certainly give you some resources. There are other folks in town where that is their specialty. Generally, there will be counselors available at the high school and at the universities that he might be interested in who can also help with that specifically. But I can certainly provide some resources in that area. And we will, of course, revisit this plan each year so that we can see the progress that's being made. Probably what you'll find is that Jake is getting a little bit clearer about what is interesting to him. You'll have a better sense of sort of how he's doing in school. All of that, we'll continue to revisit to see what the options really are as we move forward. But what we want to do right now is get you off to a really strong start in terms of saving so that you have as much opportunity as possible to meet this goal that you hold so close to your heart for Jake's education. So I'm going to go to the next slide, and this was really just to give you a general perspective. I just want to talk with you a little bit about some of the alternatives. And this only applies if for some reason we're really not able to meet the goal of your funding 100% of a four-year private education, if that in fact is what Jake wants to do. What we might find is that you will certainly be able to fund a substantial portion if we are able to contribute $14,000 a year over the next 4 years. So that gives you a great head start. And to complete the costs, you might be able to do it through a combination of scholarship, if Jake is able to qualify for scholarship. And certainly he can qualify, I'm going to guess, for work study and apply for loans. And we will certainly help you understand the parameters and requirements for getting college aid, financial aid. The other alternative is to consider your ability to fully fund a four-year public university education in state. And there are some excellent universities in your state. And what I'd suggest is that you and Samantha might want to schedule an appointment with a counselor at Jake's high school. Begin to do a little bit of research on the in-state colleges, just to begin to get a better sense of what the opportunities are. And the other thing that I would encourage is that you begin to have a conversation with Jake, um, just sort of asking him what his interests are, if he has any sense of that, and to actually, I would let him know that you are taking this very seriously and really trying to accumulate savings to apply towards his for children to understand that. So let me pause, Jack. I've been rambling on quite a bit and giving you some alternatives. What questions do you have for me about the educational funding?
In that slide where you're saying, I think it was $12,000 a year that was going towards education, do you have, or $14,000, do you have any thoughts for how I would invest that?
That's a great question. And what I would like to suggest is a combination. I didn't present a slide on this because I really wanted to sort of keep us at a higher level of conversation for today. And the next time we meet, I will give you very specific recommendations. But I like to try to balance, just to give you an idea, I like to try to balance between uh, investment accounts that are designed specifically to fund college education because they offer some tax advantages, but also balance that with having you save part of the funds in just a joint personal investment account. And this is something that we will talk about, as I say, in another meeting. The reason for that is that I'm trying to help you preserve flexibility. Because, in fact, if Jake were to get a full scholarship and you have saved all the money into something like a 529 plan, that's an account where the funds must be used towards college or you face a penalty and taxes if you withdraw. Sort of getting into a little more detail than I planned, but I did want to just let you know that we have been thinking about it and we will present that in detail for you and certainly help you make those decisions and implement it. Step one, I felt today, was to show you how we could begin this process of funding and find $14,000 a year to contribute and talk a little bit about some of the other alternatives. Next time, get into more detail. Will that work
Okay,
for
well,
you?
no, sure, that sounds like a plan, and then, that'll be good. The two of us will be here and to talk with you. Okay, great.
Good. Okay. All right. Being conscious of just the limited amount of time you have today, that's really, I wanted to sort of keep it at sort of the 30,000 foot level, but I appreciate your questions and I'll make sure that in our next meeting all of them are answered. So let's spend a few minutes talking about your retirement planning, or what I like to call your plan for financial freedom. By that I mean the ability to live well and thrive without having to go to work unless you want to. So basically, this is a plan for living, not retiring. It's a plan for doing what you want to do, and if you choose to work, it's only by choice, not by necessity. So that's what I mean by retirement planning. Now, you have a very specific goal. It's your goal, as you've expressed earlier in a meeting, for you to retire when you're 66, and at that point, Samantha will be 65. Is that still what you would most like to do, Jack?
Yeah, that's what we're talking about right now. We're still on that page.
Great. Okay, then that's what I've assumed. And you had also, and from our conversation, we sort of agreed that ideally you would like to have a pre-tax income of $115,000. That's in today's dollars, and we would assume that you would be able to increase that income every year by 3%, which has been more or less the average inflation rate. I want to show you where that money will come from. We're assuming in this scenario that you will begin to take your Social Security when you retire. And that's pretty much will be close to your full retirement age. Between you and Samantha, you'll receive, we estimate, a combined Social Security of $46,000. And we have not inflated that. We're trying to be a little bit conservative and not assume that that amount will go up given the uncertainty around Social Security, but you did want us to include it. You will also receive a pension, which is wonderful. We don't see those so much anymore. And your pension will be $35,000. And again, we do not assume that that will go up over time, but that will remain at $35,000. Given those two more or less guaranteed sources of income, what that will require is that you withdraw about $34,000 a year in the first year from your investment portfolio. Stop right there and just check in with you and see if you're following along and if those numbers make sense.
It makes sense. I guess I've been reading the paper and it keeps saying Social Security is not even going to be there. And is that something I better be worried about?
You know, I wouldn't say worried. I would say we're all concerned and keeping our eye on it. I would not say that I would agree with those who say there will not be any Social Security. Because you will be retiring relatively soon, I mean, you've still got quite a few years. We have, as I said, frozen Social Security. We're not inflating that number at all. Also discounted it by 20%. We're not assuming that you will get the full Social Security that you're actually probably seeing reported on the annual Social Security statement that you get. So we've tried to be a bit conservative here to account for that uncertainty. But we do believe you will receive Social Security, and we may be being too conservative, but we wanted to address it and show you what it would require of you in terms of savings if this turned out to be how Social Security played out. Does that help with that question?
Yes, it does. Okay.
Okay.
Good.
And we can always look at it in another way. We can leave it out, but if we leave it out, I think that's a bit unrealistic from our point of view. But the nice thing is we'll be updating your plan every year, so you're not going to go. This is not the only time we're going to be, reviewing your retirement plan. We'll update this every year based on current information. So right now, Jack, you have a current 401k balance of $350,000, which is excellent. And the plan will require you to save $12,000 a year starting this year and increase that to the full $20,000 over the next 6 years. If you do this, this is going to provide income all the way to Samantha's age 100, with an estimated $200,000 remaining in your account. That's the plan that you're looking at here. So your ability to meet that $115,000 pre-retire at your desired age of 66 will really require very little in terms of increase, and that $12,000 a year we have managed to create through the savings that we looked at earlier in the presentation. So lots of numbers on this page. I apologize for that, but I've tried to focus just on the ones that really tell the story of what's required for you to meet this important goal. How does that feel to you, and are you following?
Yes, I'm following.
So does this feel doable to you? How are you feeling about what's being required in the case of retirement? saving this $12,000, which I'll go back to this other slide, we were able to fund through the mortgage refinance and reducing some of your current spending. What do you
Well,
think?
it was a relief to first of all see that some funds could be loosened up for retirement. And that 115 number right there makes me feel good, knowing that our lifestyle isn't going to be trashed, or or we have to sell the house and live in some small apartment. So seeing that, and if you say that's doable, that's going to work, um, then it certainly takes away some of that stress that I came in with.
Right, right. This is based on a particular investment portfolio that we will talk about later. And it also assumes that, over time, once you retire, in the early years, you'll be spending that 115,000, probably doing more travel. The house ideally will be paid off. And so in a later meeting, we'll really go into the details of where you'll be spending that 115,000. And we make sure to sort of prepare you for the fact that as you get older in retirement, some of your choices in spending will change. You'll go from maybe doing travel to not wanting to travel as much, or maybe being as able to travel. We always make sure that we've accounted for the increase in healthcare costs. So these are things that we'll look at in more detail. I want to spend just a moment on insurance planning, because this is such a critical area and something that you have talked about how important it is to you to protect your family with a risk management plan. And so this is something that we have done quite a bit of analysis on. Of course, we'll address your home insurance, a bit on car insurance, liability, but primarily I want to talk about I think any death maybe feels premature, but we're talking about if the Mack truck basically hits you tomorrow, we want to make sure that your family will be okay. And I don't mean to be trite, but this is so critical. And I want to talk about what life insurance needs to cover. This is something that you shared with me, and that's why we've included it. In the event that something should happen to either one of you, you have expressed that you want to be able to pay off the mortgage and any other debts. You want to ensure that there is enough money to provide for 4 years of funding for Jake at a public. You need to make sure that all final expenses can be covered. The cost of a funeral, all of that can add up. And then we need to make sure that the survivor has an adequate income to continue to live in their home and thrive, and be able to meet the expenses that they'll also to be able to continue to save what they need to provide for their own retirement. Given all of those goals of the life insurance, we've come up with some recommendations. Is there anything else, Jack, that you would want life insurance to cover onto these
Well,
recommendations?
my primary concern with the life insurance is to make sure the home's paid off and make sure that, my family, the financial needs are taken care of. And I guess part of that with making sure that the education is provided for. So probably, paying off the home, making sure the education is funded, and take care of both of them while, Jake is still at home. And then um, I guess we have to sit down with Sam to see her earning capacity, after that point.
Right. Well, I want you to know again that this is something that we'll review every year, but given the fact that you have so many goals and demands on your cash flow, and because your primary needs for life insurance, what they say is in many cases, life insurance, uh, you need the life insurance when you don't have the asset. Over time, you're going to be building your assets, and so your need for this particular time, what we're recommending is term convertible life insurance, which means you're not building any cash value. You're simply paying for the actual cost of the insurance. We're looking at a 20-year term policy. This amount of insurance plus the current value of your assets and the have in the event of the loss of. This would be adequate if something were to happen literally today. And that's what we have to provide for. Now, the nice thing about the term convertible policy, it can be converted to point down the road. You can afford it more easily, and there becomes do so, and we'll continue to talk about that. But our concern right now is to begin to fund your life goals and protect you in the event of death, should that occur much, much, much too soon in your lifetime. We also recommend a long-term disability policy for you, Jack, and I'm going to save going into the details of that for limited time today. So I want to just review what we've talked about today in terms of next steps. We certainly haven't covered everything, all aspects of your financial plan. We haven't discussed how your investments should be set up to meet these goals, how we would invest for your college funding, how we recommend you invest for your retirement plan. We'll save that for our next meeting. Today we've talked about the importance of refinancing your mortgage so that we can find those savings, pay off some of your other debts like the auto loan and the home equity line. This is something that is a real priority, and I will give you the name of a banker that we have used, and of course I would encourage you to talk to your own banker, and we'll be happy to look over any paperwork and any rates and fees that you've been presented with and help you make that decision. Once that's done, we will help you open the 529 savings plan and also a personal joint account to begin saving towards Jake's college funding. And we will talk with you about which 529 plan to use and how to invest for that. That will be at our meeting on July 20th. But I'd like to encourage, again, I will have a conversation with Samantha and go over what we talked about today. And the two of you will want to talk about not just certainly how you manage your entertainment and vacation spend, but also I would encourage you to look over all of your categories of expenses and simply try to come up with those areas that you feel like you can reduce in order to fund your goals and still feel like you're having a thriving life. And then get back to me with that so that I can be your champion and advocate in helping you choices. We'll also help you with your with purchasing your life insurance and disability policy. I will send notes to your insurance agent, and happy to have a phone call with you and your agent. And I'd like to see if we can schedule that before July 27th. And of course, I will send you follow-up meeting notes to this meeting so that if you have any questions that haven't occurred to you today, you can raise them with me and we can go over this in more detail. And then finally, we will have you contributing $6,000 each to your IRA accounts to fulfill that requirement to meet your retirement goals. What I would like to do is have a conversation about that when we meet on July 20th. But our goal is to have you fund that. Actually, you can postpone that. So we have 5 steps. We really have 4 that need to take place ideally sooner rather than later. And I will work with you every step of the way. So are you feeling overwhelmed, Jack, or are you feeling like this is a good start to implementing this plan? How are you feeling?
No, I think that these 5 steps are doable, and I also I feel good that you continue to say that you'll be there to assist, right?
Absolutely. Every step of the way. And I know that it may feel like we really stayed at the 30,000 foot level today, but I think it's important to sort of move at a pace that you and Samantha can really digest this information. We're asking a lot of you in terms of sort of change of behavior and into your savings and putting new things in place like the insurance. And I will always tell you what I feel the priorities are and be realistic with you in terms of a time frame. But we certainly will help you get through this implementation process. I want to to thank you so much for coming in today, Jack, and please send Samantha my best wishes, and I will get an email out to her right away and offer to meet with her, and I will send you follow-up notes to our meeting so that you can look at it with her and have a conversation and get back to me with any questions. So I want to make sure that we covered the things that were most important to you. You mentioned the cash flow and debt management, and you mentioned the education. Feel like you have a better understanding of how we're going to try to work towards those goals?
Oh yes, not only that, I feel like, our financial house is starting to get in order, and you kind of start to see some of the light. And thank you for your work and for being here with us as we move forward.
It's a pleasure. I'm excited for you. I can see that this plan is going to work for you, and I'm so thrilled that you and Samantha are so clear on what your priorities are and what's most important to you. And that's the financial plan that we'll be working on. So let me let you get out of here. I hope you have a great rest of the day, and I will talk with you soon.
Okay.